Hello and welcome to Section 8, Part 19. We're going to be looking at controlling our spacing with our formations in a moment. First, I just want to cover something I meant to add at the end of the last marker video, was to set the team color of the markers. So to do that, we're going to come down to the bottom of the entities component, and this is where we're setting the team stuff here. And I think what I might do is just rename this set selection decal team to set marker team. And then inside here, we'll do that check for whether it's a decal or not. All right, and then we just need to get our, so before we go on and fill this out, we'll see where this is being called from. So on a team change, it's being called, and I think I'm going to put it in the create markers function as well. Actually, yeah, we'll put it, where's this called from? Yeah, I'm going to put it in create markers once the decal is, the decal or the Niagara effect is created, components are created. So let's put it down. Yep. That should cover both bases, and I'm actually going to copy this switch out. And come back to that set marker team, and I'm going to put that switch into here because we want to go through each marker and essentially do the same thing. But so we're doing the same as this, but we don't need to get the component because we have a reference to it, so we can just check it if it's valid. And I'll just copy this in. And we can do the same here, but we're going to do apply team data to Niagara component, and we're going to pass our component. That should be good. And then the only thing we need to do is the way this works. It's, if you recall how the team data is set up, where is that? So if we have a look where this is implemented, Teams Manager. So it's getting the team asset based on the team we pass in, and it's applying it to the component. And the way it does it is it goes through the color parameters in our team configuration. So we need to make some changes to this. So that's done in the editor. We go to our team data. Instead of using this decal color, we'll change this to marker color. And we need to change that on each team. Could have opened all them in a multi-edit thing, but anyway. Come into our materials and our marker material. We want to add a new node here, and it's called particle color. And we'll just replace that with our color, and we can remove that. And then if we open up our VFX, and in our actual create a user parameter first, so we need that, it's called linear color, and we'll make that marker color. And then if we come into initialize particle, we can set the color to the marker color, and then in our particle update, we'll just add a module color, and we'll set that to marker color also. So now, when we play, we have team color on our marker. Beautiful. If you recall, we went through this diagram in one of our videos, but I just want to use it to point out what we actually need to modify to adjust our spacing. So the spacings that we're going to modify are this group entity spacing, so the spacing between individual entities, and this formation group spacing, so the spacing between groups. They're really the only two we want to modify. Everything else is sort of set based on the static properties of either the entity or the group. And there's two ways that we want to modify them. So one, we want to modify the group overall. So we might want to just spread them out, and so we'll modify both at the same time. And then we want to modify each individually. But another way we might want to do it is, say, we want this middle group to be really spaced out and these other groups just with normal spacing. So we're going to want to be able to control different selections individually, and that's how we're going to do it, by selection. So if you, for example, if you wanted this group here to be really spaced out, you would select this group, change their entity spacing, and then what we'll do is we'll add another spacing option is if you don't want to, so there'll be two ways to change it. One will be override everyone to the same. So if we have this group with 20 spacing, this group with 40 spacing, and this group with 10 spacing, we select them all and we say adjust spacing, then it'll say, okay, what's the lead group spacing, and it'll grab that data and change everyone to the same. But then the other way we might want to change the spacing is they've all got their individual spacings and we just want to increase it or decrease it, but keep that aspect. So this group, or what I say, this was 10 and this was 40. If we increase the spacing, these guys will go, by 10, these guys will go up to 20 and these guys will go up to 50, and it's sort of incremental like that. And we also want to be able to do that either just by entity spacing or formation spacing. We'll get to see that in action once we implement it, and we will go do that now. So we're actually going to start in the player pawn because we need some input. Well, we already have the input, but we're going to modify it. So let's come to this input zoom, an unfortunate name now because we're going to adapt how this is set up. The way I'm going to set it up, and you can do your control keys however you like, but I'm going to use Alt and Control to do the separate formation, so Control for formation, Alt for entity spacing, and then I'm going to have another one which is spacebar. So spacebar will be that increment version. So the normal Control or Alt will override everyone to the same, and space will increment what they currently are. We can keep this, so we're going to want to talk to this interface. I'm just going to put this at the top. And then this will become the default implementation of wheel mouse, but we're going to put a switch in though on the modifier. And we'll take out the no modifier and put that default case in. And that's what this will be. So we'll just put that there. So if we're not holding any modifier key, it's just going to do the normal zoom. We'll leave all these in. We're not going to use them all. The first one will be control, and I'm just going to do some notes here so we know what we're doing. And then Alt will be the entity group spacing. So that one will do both if you hold Control and Alt. And Control space will only increment the formation spacing, and Alt space will only increment the group entity spacing. So just to reiterate, the difference is Alt here, which changes the entity group spacing, so the spacing between each entity in a group. What that'll do is that'll go and get the lead of that group and apply that spacing to all that group. And if it's a whole formation, it will apply it to the whole formation. Whereas the increment one will get the current spacing of that entity and just increment it by the amount that we're pushing through with our wheel mouse. So they could all have separate spacings. We're not going to override it. We're just going to modify it up or down individually. Right. So now we don't have the functions for this yet, but we're just going to put it in. So the first one will be set formation group spacing, and we're just going to grab the values. So it will be the same as this. So that's just going to be, it's either going to be a -1, a 0, or a 1 to tell us which way we're wheel mousing, and 0 is obviously no wheel mouse. Right, so this next one will be set group entity spacing, and Control will be, I'm just going to call this set formation spacing, because it's going to do both. And then for the increment ones, we're just going to call this increment spacing, and then for the control space, control was the formation, so we're going to increment formation spacing, and then increment group entity spacing. All right, so now we need to go to our interface and add these functions, and I might cheat a bit here and flip this to another window. It's going to be a bit squashy for a minute. I'll do. I think we've got 6. Oh. So set formation group spacing. Okay, and these are all going to have const float. We're just going to call it increment. So it tells us if we're going up or down. And default implement. Alright. All of them, yep. Probably close this now. I think that's all we need on there. Yep, that's good. And then we'll copy these because we need to implement these on our player controller where this interface is implemented. So we'll come to player controller. This is the actual interface here. And then we'll just replace the override. Come on. And we'll implement those. So now if we don't have anything selected, we don't want to do any of this. So I'm just going to put in a quick check for selected, selected, which I think we've got is valid. But, yeah, checks we've got selections. Yeah. So we'll just do if not valid, and that'll be the same case for all of them. Excellent. And for this first one, this is the group spacing. We will need to get the current group spacing, so we'll call it new formation spacing. And do we have function get formation spacing? This will get the lead group in the formation and get that spacing from that group. Make sure, yeah, so that's going to get the lead and get the formation spacing. We're going to have to do some modification to this group as well. We'll get to that. So now we have that, and we want to say new plus equals, and then it's our increment times the amount we want to increment by each click of the wheel mouse. So I'm going to put it as 10, might be a bit small. We'll see how we go with 10. We can always change it. might be worth making that a variable in the developer settings even. Maybe we should do that. We can change on the fly then. Let's do that. So copy here. We'll put this to float. Space. There we go, the fancy name. And let's copy this. Because now we'll need to equals get default. No, and then this will be settings now. There we go. So setting, cool. Now we need to set that formation. So we're not gonna have functions for that, but we're just gonna do it through the selected. And selected is a struct, right? So set formation spacing and new formation spacing. I just want to fill out this class and then we'll go on to all these functions that we're missing or like the group stuff need modifying. The next one is essentially going to be the same, except we're not going to get the formation spacing, we're going to get the group entity spacing. Another function we need to create, that's okay. And we'll change this so we don't get confused to group entity spacing. And then this will be set group entity spacing. So you can see by doing it for the whole selection, it'll override everyone's group entity spacing. For the set formation spacing, which is, if you remember, is holding both Control and Alt, we are just going to do these both. So that's fine. All right, so now for this set increment spacing, this will be the same as this, but for the increment. So it's going to do both, right? So it's for the full formation. But for these, we'll need to set all the formation spacing by group individually. So we're going to, first of all, let's get that setting. And then in here we'll have a for loop, and that'll be for the selected selections. And we need to know if the group's valid, which is what our is valid check does on selections. So we have a look at that. It just checks if the group is not equal to null. That's fine. We want it anyway. So we know the group's not null. So here now we can set the formation spacing on this particular group. So it's going to be same as this. Let's copy all of this. So we've got, rather than get it from the selected, which should be the leads one, we actually want to get it straight from the group. So we're going to copy this. I'm going to go group, get formation spacing. Oh, we have a function. Yeah, didn't think that would be there. And then that's the same. Yep, that's the same. And then when we go to set it, it's going to be the same again. It'll be group set formation spacing. And each group gets its own incrementation and its own spacing. All right, so now we can copy this down to the next one. And we just need to change, this will need to be get group entity. Oh, what's a function for that? Very good. And then set group entity. And we'll rename this. All right. I think we'll start with this here. So we're going to go to our struct here. And we need a set. We need a set formation spacing. can put that in here. I think the other one was set entity spacing. We can just duplicate that. Set entity spacing. When we're sending it through this selected like this, we want to change them all. So it'll be the for loop again. We can access selections directly. Oops. And then check that that's valid. And then set the formation spacing on the group. That's meant to be .group. There we go. And then this one will be exactly the same. We're going to set the group entity spacing. All right, coming back to our close that settings. Player controller. It's got a getter. So we need a getter for group entity spacing on that as well. Yeah, put that here. And again, that's going to be the group lead, just like this. So we're just going to copy this down. And this will be from the group, we'll get the group entity spacing. Okay, that's good. Now we need to go to the group and do some data management there. So group. We've got a formation spacing already, so that's good. And so group entity spacing is getting it straight from the data. It looks like formation spacing is straight from the data on initialize. So I think what the first thing we'll do is we'll create that group entity spacing. And coming back to that initialize, we'll just initialize that from the group default entity spacing, I think we called it, yep. So that's them initialized when the group's created. But then when we go to get the values, so when we go to get the values, we want to get those variables that we've been changing, not the data, but we still might want to get the info from the data if we want to reset or something. So I think what we'll do is we'll add a couple of functions here. I'm just going to copy this and this. And I'm going to change it to get default formation spacing and get default group entity spacing. Like that. I think I'll modify this. Do that to me. That'll be all good, and then implement these. And we can take this out. So by not renaming this, I'm not affecting where we're using it in the navigation data. This one, wasn't it? And I'll throw this in as well, but I'll change it to the formation spacing. We can get rid of that because it's implemented in line. Right, so, oh yeah, we need group setters now. Where are we? Group here. So we need setters for these two. So let's just duplicate those, put a bit of a gap because they're setters. Change them to void and add that. New spacing. It's not const, and we can set it in line. So it'll be this one, formation spacing is the new spacing. There we go. We've got our setters. Might move this down. So I might move all these functions down here. We've got a command area. There we go. There we go. that should be good. So let's come back to our player controller. Why is that not picking up? Oh, I copied the default. That was meant to be just like that. Should sort that out. There we go. So that's all good. This up here. Oh, yeah, whatever. Now, there was one other change we need to do, and that is in our data. And it's the way we're handling. Actually, no, it's not in there. It's in the formation data asset, I think. It's where we assign the selected positions, selection positions. Yeah, here. At the moment, if we follow this formation spacing, find where it's assigned, which is in a So this formation spacing is getting assigned when the navigation data is created, but the issue is it's getting the formation of the lead. So when we go to calculate every formation, we're using that lead's formation spacing, but we want to change that now. We want to use the each individual group's group spacing, and if we want them to all be the same, then we'll override them. But if they're not, then we want to use the individual spacing. So we're just going to change this from that navigation formation spacing to whatever selection is being assigned to this position. It looks like we don't have a function for that on the selection, so come back to our data types. This one. So this is the selection. We just need a add a in here, get formation spacing. And it'll be the same as this one here. Got a group, we'll get the formation spacing. So then back on our data here, we should be able to get formation spacing. Cool. Let's clean this up a bit. I think that's all done now. Rebuild and see how we go. Looks like we got an error. Oh, I forgot to pass the new spacing on. All right, so let's just try one. So if we hold Alt and wheel mouse, it spaces out. And if we let go of Alt, it still keeps the spacing. We can move them to there. All right, let's try 2. And let's try, there we go, they got separate spacings. So now if I use Control, it should override the spacings. Oh, that's just the formation. So if I use Control Alt, there you go, it just grabbed the left group spacing and applied it to all of them. That's what we wanted. Well, let's do Control Alt. Geez, this red's hard to see. I might try a different color. Green, there we go. That's a bit better. So we've got 2 groups here. If I press Alt and wheel mouse, it changes the group spacing. If I press Control, it just changes the formation spacing. Jeez, it takes a bit to wheel that. Might need a higher number. And then that's the other thing you could do too in the settings. You could have separate increment speeds for like the formation and the entities. So 10 might be good for entities. You might want 25 for the group formation group spacing. All right, so now I want to try holding space. So space does both there. That's not really going to tell us much, is it? So let's space these guys right out. So these guys want to have some crazy spacing. So now when we move them, there should be separate spacing. Now, if I hold space and wheel mouse, you can see that it's not overriding the spacing, it's just doing individual groups. Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, Alt and space. We'll do, oops, let's do one more. No, that's going to be hard to test, isn't it? Can I do space and Alt? I can. So that's just doing the entity spacing, not the group spacing, and then space and control will just do the formation spacing. Awesome. Alright, let's just do one more test. I'm going to bring these guys in. And now if I hold space and control, I should be able to just bring it in, sorry. Yeah, you get the idea. Got some control anyway. I think the increment's too low, so you come to entity settings, was it? Yeah, 10. So I might change this to 25, see what it looks like. Alright, that'll do for there. I think the next thing we want to do is try and implement some sort of formation change on the fly. So if we told them to move up here, we could just if that selection, we could change the wheel mouse or whatever, and they would change their destination based on the new formation, I think is the go. But that's it for this part. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.